Welcome back to Pixels and Pints. This is the Dinner for Two episode, and it's just myself, Dan, and Pete tonight.
Howdy.
Tom is gallivanting around New South Wales for weddings and can't lock the man down when you give him the chance to get out.
Yeah, I think it was a meal for two, and he was so excited. Yeah, because it's episode 69.
Oh, I wasn't going to point it out.
Why not?
I was just going to let people just work it out for themselves.
But it doesn't come up. I don't think it appears anywhere.
Oh no, it wouldn't, because it's an older. It's the count from the original count too, isn't it?
Yeah. So they just see it as season 4, episode 19. So they wouldn't have known. So
I sounded like I was clipping just before, so I apologize.
Yeah. So meal for two. Here we are. Probably going to be a short episode. Fucking 3-hour episodes have been killing me.
Yep. And
been killing our listeners too.
We're both worn out, and without a third voice to listen to, I'm sure people don't want to listen to the both of us rabbit on for too long, because you're going to talk about shit that I haven't seen and I don't know about, and I'm going to talk about shit that you haven't played or know about. So it's going to be a little one-sided conversation with some comments and questions interjected there.
We'll figure it out. I noticed at least 2 of your topics we actually discussed last episode while you were away too, so we'll get through those.
Was I away last episode?
Well, you popped away and we talked about Shang-Chi, and then you popped away and I think we definitely talked about the Boba Fett teaser.
No, there's the new Boba Fett teaser.
Oh, the new one that dropped.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it's only
makes more sense.
A second more of audio or a second more of, it's a real short trailer. I'm just super excited about it. So any extra bits and pieces, any recut,
any excuse to talk about it.
Yeah, any recut of what they've already released, I'm down for it. I mean, it just gets more epic every time they want to fucking do something, and I just get more and more ball tingly when I hear Tamira Morrison's voice come up, and I'm just super excited. It just makes me happy.
Fair enough.
It just does. It just makes me happy. And I've got,
with how broken the world is at the moment. The world is at the moment. It's good to hang on to have those things to hang on to. I think.
Yeah,
keep us afloat.
Yeah, I had to have a little talk about world events today. I had to have a little laugh because the Futurama memes have started to come in, because one of the alien races are from Omicron Persei 8. So there's Omicron variant coronavirus.
The joke going around the office today is it's the new Transformers variant. Because it does sound like a fucking Transformer.
Yeah, definitely. So, no, well, I mean, Shang-Chi, I watched it a couple of days after the last recording, and I was always going to jump on with my opinions of it. I don't, actually, let's not cover that, because Tom wanted to know what my opinion was with some of the fight scenes in it.
Okay.
So, Let's gloss over that, and I'll just I'll hit that up. And I think, have you seen Eternals?
No.
Tom has, and I
haven't been out of the house if I can avoid it. So I mean, say if I can avoid it. You're busy at the moment building a brewery or something. I don't know. It sounds like you're
a little brewery,
inside the big brewery,
like 1/8 of the size of my big brewery.
Inside it. Inside the same brewery?
in the bistro. In the bistro, we've built a 2.5 meter, 7 meter long platform.
Wow!
And we had to get here's a nice engineering problem for you. We had to get a 3.6 meter 2-vessel brew house. It was all sort of plumbed in on a big skid, about 900 kilos through a 2.5 meter gap this morning. Took us 4 hours to get it up there. So that was good fun. That was moving very slowly. The
last engineering problem I had like that was at home trying to get the TV unit through the house. I had four massive Islander boys moving my gear into the house, and I've got this stupid apartment set up where you go up a set of stairs, you hook it's a 90-degree left to the door, and then you've got and then you immediately chuck a 180-degree turn and go up another flight of stairs through the doorway. And from wall to wall with the door frame in the middle, you're only talking just over 6 foot, just like a shade over 6 foot. And I have a 6 foot long TV unit.
but it's not deep either. So when your front door opens, it's not like it's not that deep to have some room to get in there and then turn once you're in.
The door frame is a standard height, whatever the standard height of a door frame is, 7 foot, call it.
2 point something. 2.
And these guys, these Islander boys were tough. Like they picked up this is solid wood, like hardwood TV in it, and they were picking it up like it was a toy. And I'm like, I can't fucking lift that thing, man. I have to drag it if I need to move it. And they were there for half an hour sweating, trying to figure out how to get this unit through the fucking door. And in the end, they gave up. And it wasn't until they all left, and I was sitting there having a beer that night, and I went, oh, I know how we could have done it. You drop it. So you put it up to the top of the stairs, you drop it ass first through the door frame, and then you flip it up the other way, and then off you go up the stairs.
Yeah,
so I figured it out. It was like Tetris. So anyway, engineering problems. Random.
We interrupt this broadcast with some breaking news from the front.
Let's just quickly talk about our one and only news piece. There hasn't been that much interesting shit. I was scanning the airwaves for news and trailers, and I know we got the Boba Fett teaser, but
that's going to be all of a 2-second talk. So
yeah, we never talked about the Morbius trailer, so I guess we can come back to that. But the only news I found was the creators of City of Heroes, which was probably the first superhero MMO.
Yeah, I remember that. I played that for a little while.
You did. I never did, but I know that you did.
It expanded out into City of Villains as well, didn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
And so the same studio then went on to make DC Universe Online, which we all played. Well, you, Chris, and I played for a while, and then I continued playing for a couple of years on and off. And I loved it because it was a PS4 MMO, and I'd just come out of playing World of Warcraft like a fucking crack addict, and it was great to just sit on my couch and play a pick up put down MMO for a change with a bunch of DC Universe characters I loved and a bunch I had no idea of and got to learn about through the game. So that same studio is now confirmed to be making a Marvel IP based MMO to be released in 2023-24.
Okay, well they've got the lineage to do it. So.
Yeah, they haven't specified if it's Marvel IP generically or if it's a specific Marvel IP, so it might not be the scope of like DC Universe Online for Marvel. It could be just like a Galaxy of the Guardians of the Galaxy MMO, for all I know. But it'd be interesting to see how that plays out over the next couple of years.
Yeah, well, I think the whole idea of the MMOs have changed a lot, and you know me, I dive into them like Assassin's Creed and play like 20 hours and then go, nah, it's not for me.
Yeah.
The whole concept of it, in my mind, has changed quite a bit, because you look at some of those new ones like the New World, which is the Amazon-owned new MMO.
Okay.
The New World. I'm pretty sure it's called The New World. It was the one that was burning out people's like 3080 graphics cards
really?
in the alpha testing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they were fucking people's like high-end video cards big time.
Awesome.
That got, I think they fixed all that on release, and I mean it looks really nice. It's got
New World.
The New World, a New World?
New World.
New World, just New World, no prefix. Yeah, it's really pretty. It has some of the, I haven't only watched a little bit. GameRanks did a review before you buy on it.
Mm-hmm.
And it drops into some of the old sort of hotkey combat sort of things. But then you're getting MMOs like Black Desert Online and whatever their new one is going to be, which is more medieval Norse based.
Yep.
And it's basically a hack and slash MMO.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not a hotkey driven MMO. So
I mean,
got a dynamic.
Well, what is it? The Elder Scrolls Online's quite. I mean, it's kind of a half step, right? Still quite a hacky slashy. It felt a lot like Diablo when I was playing it, and I didn't play it for long, mind you. But it had that Diablo element to it, but there was still hotkeys and the hotbars, and the same goes for DC Universe Online. It's very much a hack and slash, but you still need powers.
Yeah, I'm sure Black Desert. I haven't played it, so I'm talking out of school here a little bit. I just like the look of their new one, but it was the one that sort of interested me more because it had a bit more of a interactive move around, not just spam abilities and line them all up until you're ready to go kind of thing. I'm sure it has cooldown abilities and everything like that, but it was the standard stuff looked more, and is much more hack and slash than it is traditional. Like, I played Lord of the Rings MMO for ages. My favorite one, though, and I'm not sure we've ever spoken about it, was D&D. And
D&D?
Yeah, D&D online. Dungeons and Dragons online.
I never played that. I played Neverwinter Nights online, but that's not an MMO, really. That was just a multiplayer.
Very, very different. Like, so we played a group, because I played with my friend Kelvin, Sui. I think Sui played for a little while, and Kelvin's now wife Amelia played. So we had a group of 4 of us that were part of the team, and we all played different roles, because you needed those specific different roles, not for the abilities within combat like you do with a lot of the
World of Warcraft,
a lot of World of Warcraft-esque MMOs. You needed it to go through the dungeons, because
puzzles.
If you didn't, oh yeah, kind of. Well, there was some that were puzzles. You needed a ranger to scope out your traps as you were going through the dungeons. If you wanted to get in certain areas, you needed a barbarian or a fighter, somebody with strength that could force doors open and block passages. You needed a thief that could pick locks and pick chests and things like that. And then Kelvin played the bard and just stood back with his loot and inspired everybody.
Yeah,
bardic inspiration.
It's very pen and paper. I mean, it's exactly why you need a good balanced squad.
Yeah, and this was well before I even thought about playing the pen and paper tabletop. And it was probably my first introduction to a team of people working together with very drastically different roles to move through. And I really, really enjoyed it. And we've even recently contemplated going back to it. Not sure how it's going to hold up. Probably looking at it through rose-colored glasses. But
yeah, we're a bit spoiled for graphics these days too.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure there's other things out there now. I mean, even you and me played Divinity, and like, that's just head and shoulders above anything that has come previously along that Dungeons and Dragons-esque line. So we got very sidetracked there.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about? I mean, we talked about the Marvel MMO. Do you want to talk about first beer?
Yeah. So I've got a Mr. Banks Goza, peach Goza. And on the back it says salted peach sour. So, yep, it's not super sour, so I know why they call it a Goza instead of a sour on the front. It's 3%. I'm hoping that says 3% because it's really, really small writing. It's a 340ml can, and it's peachy and really dry.
Okay,
and slightly tart. Little bit salty, definitely not over the top salt. It's really well balanced across the board, and you would just sit there and smash them.
Yeah, cool.
Almost scary, like it's. And actually, as I breathe saying that, I'm getting the peach flavor sort of come back up and roll around my nasal passages. Sound like an absolute douchebag saying that, but it definitely does. It's that peach character, that deep stone fruit character, sort of rolling around. So. No.
Yeah, cool.
Nice.
Cool.
Oh, it's called Lookout. I'm not sure why it's called Lookout.
Okay.
There's nothing written on it to say why it's called Lookout, but yeah.
Fair enough.
Nice. What do you got?
I thought I'd deviate from my normal palate. So this is Afterburner Red IPA from Black Hops Brewery, which...
Oh, they've changed their cans.
Got my tattoos.
Your video quality on my screen is absolutely fucking pixelated to shit. So once again, I can't see anything.
It's just an orange blur, basically. Yeah. It's got silver fading into yellow flames in a very tattoo-esque style.
I could tell that. Can. I couldn't tell there was yellow in it. I could just see the silver rolling into the main body color.
It's a Lupamax beer. It's 7.2%.
So, it's a Lupamax beer. I've got one of those sitting in the cool room at work then.
I bought the Lupamax pack from Beer Cartel.
Beer Cartel, yep.
And then accidentally proceeded to drink most of them in a drunken evening of alcohol consumption on Friday. So this is one of the few Lupamaxes I've got left. Yeah, no, it's good. I mean, I've said on this podcast a few times, I really don't like red IPAs. I tend to find their bitterness way too high for my liking. It's just not my personal preference. This isn't that bad at all, actually.
I find so many of them these days, and we have a couple sort of roll through the brewery every now and then, and people use like chocolate malt in them to give it some deeper sort of reddy colours. Yeah. And some people just go far too heavy with it, and that sort of chocolate malt character doesn't roll nicely.
Suit it.
No, not with that hop character that they're trying to get in there, and it feels out of place.
I mean, it is very red. It's not too dark, but it's not too bitter. It's quite well balanced. It does have a little bit of sweetness to it, which I suspect is coming from a lot of those kind of medium
crystal
malts. Yeah. It's not unpleasant. And I'll tell you what, for a 7.2, you do not taste the alcohol, which I guess isn't that surprising for something as heavily malt-bodied as a red. It's quite a strong palate generally on a red IPA. I find it knocks me out most of the time, but it's nice. It's good.
Yeah, cool. Nice.
I short-poured myself.
I haven't tried any of those Lipomax ones yet, so I will be trying them in the next week or so.
Pretty sure I tried them all now.
How many do you remember though?
Yeah, not many. Not many. I paid for that on Saturday, and then you'd think I'd learned my lesson, and then did it again last night.
Hair of the dog.
Yeah, that's it. All right, do you want to talk about the Sinking City?
The Sinking City.
Because you brought that up a few eps ago.
Yeah, but I'd
obviously
only
spent more time with it.
Yeah, I'd only just cracked into it, so I think at that stage I'd only played sort of 4 or 5 hours of it, and had a general idea of how it was going to play out, but didn't quite understand the overall effort that the developers had put into play to try and make a detective story different. So it is very reminiscent of an old point and click detective
adventure game. Yep.
Yeah. Only in, I guess, the way it feels overall. So I'll just quickly recap. It's a Lovecraftian Cthulhu-esque. Cthulhu is the main cosmic horror, and that is well put out on the posters. Got the main character, little tiny main character, standing in the streets of the Sinking City, and off in the distance, towering over everything, you have Cthulhu.
Right.
There is absolutely no doubt that Cthulhu is playing the major role here. But it really delves deep into a lot of the proper Lovecraftian stuff. I guess most of the Lovecraftian stuff is now in what's it called? Open license? Is like Sherlock Holmes, and like anybody can make it. It's
50-year limit on copyright, isn't there? Or is it 100?
I guess. And I guess unless somebody buys it and keeps renewing it, but I think the Lovecraftian stuff is like open.
70. Well, that's Australia. 70 years.
Yeah. Anyway, it really delves into a lot of stuff. So it delves into the people from Innsmouth that are basically the children of the sea. So they're the children of Dagon, and they look fishy. They have very distinct fishy features. And then the main guy, the main person who gives you the main body quests in it is a hybrid of a gorilla and human, so he has very monkey features or ape features, I should say. And the Innsmouthers and the ape people, the Throgmortons, don't get along. So they clash because they're different species, I guess. I say that in quotation marks. People that can't see me. So this kind of is the driving force in there. So they do talk about Dagon a lot. They haven't mentioned Cthulhu yet. They do talk about the Deep One, which is the Dagon-esque and the offspring of Dagon that mixed with the human to make these Innsmouthers. So it does delve into very deep into a lot of this Lovecraftian stuff. There's a sanity meter that is really well done. You start to distort a lot when your sanity meter goes down, and he starts to brush bugs off him, and you hear the bugs and everything's like skittering in the background, and he's looking around. It's really well done for a lower, very much lower budget game.
Yep. So is it indie, or is it from a...
No, I think it's a double A. I would call it.
Okay, so
maybe
like a
not
mid-sized
quite.
studio.
Yeah, yeah, it's done by Frogwares. who have done quite a few bits and pieces. And
Okay.
I would call it a double A. It's by no means fully polished. The city is very big, and there isn't a huge... I guess there's a lot to do, but not a whole lot of interaction that you do with the general public in the streets and most buildings. Everything that you can interact with is marked through your... You guess you'd look through kind of your mind's eye. No, the mini-map is something completely different. So
Okay.
I touched on the mini-map last time where you need to mark everything on your mini-map. The only thing that it marks for you is a couple of the main locations when people tell you about them. So the newspaper, the town hall, the university, and the police station and the insane asylum. So they're the kind of main city buildings that when someone says, oh, well, the records for this will be in this building.
Yep.
So then it appears on there. Your fast travel points. So when you pass like a phone booth, it's like a phone booth, but it's not a phone booth. It's like a bus stop station phone booth kind of thing. Doesn't really explain that. They're just fast travel points.
Yep.
It marks those things for you, and then everything else quest-wise, if you find a quest, you need to mark where that person is on that quest.
Or else you're never going to find them to turn it in at the end.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and then every time you get a piece of information, it goes into your notebook, into your case log, and you need to open your case log. You need to read that specific piece of information. You hit triangle, and then it takes you to the mini-map, and it gives you a brief description of what that piece of evidence says, where it's located, in what district of the city. It might say southeast of the shells between this street and that street, or in such and such lane.
And you have to puzzle it out, essentially.
Yeah, you've got to look through the map, you've got to drop your marker on the map, and then you've got to keep flicking between your map. There's no mini-map on your HUD, so you have to keep flicking between your mini-map and the real and the game world to find your way. There is a compass at the top, but it doesn't show you streets and everything like that. And then you get to a block street or a downed building or something like that. So it's relies on you paying attention to the evidence that comes in for marking things on your map, but then it also doesn't hold your hand for the next thing to do in a mission. So you need to read the next piece of information that goes into your case log, and one of these they might point you to the police records or the town hall or the newspaper, whatever. And when you get there, you've got access to the archives of that building. So the appropriate archives for that building. You then go to the archive, just a desk, nicely designed old school 1920s desk with big bookshelves and everything like that.
Yep.
You open it up, and there's four headings, and then under them there can be up to 5 or 6 subheadings, and you can only pick 3 of those 4 headings and 1 subheading.
Ooh.
So you have to go, okay, so this, I'm looking for an advertisement that people need down on the docks, so I need to know the area that the docks is in. So I'm going to go to the newspaper because they're putting an advert in the newspaper. And then you pick, like, you might pick your time frame, so you would pick current, and then you would pick the suburb, and you would pick the docks area, and then you would pick advertisements out of, like, articles and things like that. And then with the right piece of evidence selected on your left-hand side, and the 3 right choices selected on your right-hand side of the screen, you hit triangle and it goes, yep, you've flicked through the archives, here's your piece of information that leads you to your next clue.
Wow. That's really well made by the sounds of it. In terms of an intellectual game.
It's such a refreshing thing over always having a waypoint marked where you don't even need to read 99.9% of the documents you pick up in the world. You don't need to read them. Because your waypoint's going to take you to your next place. So you don't even need to pay attention to the story or what people are saying. Because it's just going to point you to your next spot.
Like an AC game. You don't know why you're there. You're just doing the thing that you're told to do to carry on. Yeah.
That's exactly it. So in doing this, you actually become more invested in the story.
Yeah.
The characters that are giving it to you, most of the voice acting is really well done as well, which really helps with selling that these people. The animations of the people are a little less because it's only a sort of a AA game. So they're kind of static bodied. They stand in one spot and the head and the upper torso moves and talks to you. And,
right.
But the models are good. So the Innsmouthers and the Throgmorton, the 8 people, they look really cool. The normal people just look like normal people. There's nothing outstanding about them. So yeah, you really sort of have to think your way through most of it and just pay attention to what's happening in the stories. And the monsters are really cool because they're really grotesque, Lovecraftian things.
Love a good. I love some good HP Lovecraft fucking monsters, man. They're the best plastic models if you're into miniature paint because there's so much depth to them. And they're just fucking creepy to paint, which is always fun.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, they're creepy to look at. And down back to old games like Amnesia and that, where you looked at the monsters too long and your sanity level dropped. And it's exactly the same in this. You're in the middle of a battle, and the bigger, scarier the monster, the more sanity that it drains out of you faster, sort of thing. So you're trying to reload, and it's a very survival-esque sort of game as well. It always
resources are hard to come by.
Resources are hard to come by. It takes a long time to reload. Your health boosts or your health regen is done through injections. So you actually have to select the health box from your quick select wheel, and then he takes it out, and then you actually have to hold aim and fire to administer the needle, and it takes a good couple of seconds to administer the needle. And he walks while you're doing it. He won't run anymore. So you're trying to get away from these fuckers, and then you've got to fucking reload your gun, and you can only hold a certain amount of bullets as well. So all of this adds to the extra tension.
Much resource management.
Yeah, and just watching your sanity, watching your health, watching your bullets, traps on the grounds. Like, am I going to corner myself? Am I through design of the level, but also through it not being a fully polished game as well? Am I going to get caught on the edge of a box while I'm trying to get around it, kind of thing?
Yep.
So there's a whole bunch of elements there. I'm really enjoying it. It's a very monotoned, colored palette. Which
fits the ethos of that world.
Yeah, it's very browns and greys.
Yep. Very Lovecraftian. It's all very dark and fucked up.
And drab and,
grimy and,
Yeah, 100%.
It's almost Jack the Ripper, but with a bunch of, like, out-of-this-world fucked up shit.
Yeah, and it's even worse, too, because it's the sinking city. So it's actually been flooded, and you've got these big, grotesque coral things growing off buildings, and, like, you do have to jump in a boat in the sunken streets and take a boat. Thankfully, all that's quite quick. The transition between the boat and the dock is all really quick. And all that. I'm really enjoying it. I think it's a very underrated game. And if you have any interest in Lovecraftian horror or anything like that, it's
checking out.
Worth dropping the time into. There's one section too that got me, and I think we will go back to it. And the character, the PI you're playing is an ex-Navy diver.
Mm-hmm.
So there is one section that they do early on, and it's too fleshed out in the mechanics for it to only be the one-off. You actually do a deep dive in an old school Navy diving suit.
Okay.
With the big bell head and and they're linear paths that you can take while diving. They didn't flesh out all these extra bits because it's just part of a mission.
Mm-hmm.
But it's cool. Like there's man-eating eels. That's what they're actually called. These huge eels that come out of the water, come out of the ground while you're down there. And it's fucking terrifying because you're so slow moving. You've got a spear gun that's got one shot and obviously takes a long time to reload again.
Of course.
And it only stuns them. It won't kill them. So you have to stun them and get past them. And you feel very claustrophobic through the feel and the movement and the weight of the water and the weight of the suit and the sound design of being in the helmet with the creatures in the water around. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then the breathing and if you get too damaged down there, you've got to like mash one of the buttons to repressurize your suit. And so it's just another little extra element that really is attached to that world and the story that they're trying to tell. And I hope that you're going to get to go to, I think it's called Rylak, which is the the city underwater where Cthulhu is
Okay.
hibernating. So my guess, if being that deep into Lovecraftian lore, that's what they're going to throw in there. You're going to get to go down to Rylak. I think it's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah, that's
And
cool.
some of it's terrifying, man. I mean, they do the really I shouldn't say terrifying. I said it's disturbing. You at one stage, the first mission here's a slight spoiler for the first couple of hours of the game. The first mission where you dive, you end up in a cave, and you end up on the end of this precipice. That's this massive underwater cave, and probably 30 or 40 meters off the edge that you're standing on is that traditional posed enormous Cthulhu statue.
Yep.
Where he's sort of like crouched on the plinth with the wings up and the one hand down. And that's like crudely carved out of stone about 30, 40 meters off this edge that you're standing on. And it is really disturbing to look at it. It's
Is it a
quite
jump
unusual.
scare, though? When you get up close to it, it fucking moves?
No, 100% not. And the game is, it doesn't purposely do jump scares. It's not, they're not scares. You do jump at times where
It was never a cheap slasher style fear in those Lovecraftian worlds. It was always psychological, fucked up shit.
Yeah.
You know, made you fear the dark sort of fear rather than just popping out of nowhere.
And that's exactly what it is. Like, the monsters kind of spawn by coming out of, like, slimy pools on the ground. So sometimes you'll walk past a monster spawning point, and because the mechanics aren't 100% polished and you can't sort of whip around fast enough to see where the creature is, but you'll hear this screech in your peripheral hearing.
Yeah.
And you go, like, you're in this downstairs basement that's all wet and grimy, and you'll go, where the fuck did that come from? And because you die so quickly, you really need to be on your toes at those times like that. And sometimes you'll go into a place and there'll be nothing, and you go, like, where the fuck, where are they going to pop out of?
Yeah.
But they just don't.
So you start looking in corners and shit.
Yeah.
Paranoia.
Yeah.
That's perfect for that world, though, right? That's
Oh,
perfect for that
100%.
world.
Yeah, and that's well designed to drive you to think that when there's nothing there to drive you to do it. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so I hope it doesn't drag on. I hope that it keeps this level of interest through it. I think it does, because the story's starting to progress for me. So I'm looking forward to finishing this one off.
Yeah, cool.
So I did boot it up on the PlayStation 5 this afternoon.
Yes, yeah, you finally got your PS5. I've been, mate, just before we get into your first thoughts, and I am absolutely ruining my stout right now with that shitty pour. Look at that. That's a fucking...
Oh, yeah, well done.
That was tragically bad. And I'll tell you what, that 7.2, I didn't short pour myself in the end. I finished it, and I had too many gin and tonics last night. I can already feel the alcohol doing its thing. What was I going to... Oh, mate, so I've subscribed to a Twitter feed that gives you online, like, alerts whenever online stock for the PlayStation 5 comes in anywhere. So it's tracking, like, Big W, Target, eBay, Amazon, Maya, you know, all the big boys, EB, JB. And every fucking time I get an in-stock alert, I'm on a call in a meeting, working from home. I've never managed to get away long enough to try and compete with the other 10,000 people trying to get a PlayStation 5. So I've had the worst fucking luck with it. But, you know.
The thing is, mine sat in a box for 3 days until I finally plugged it in. Not 3 days, 2 days. There was just nothing that, like, I haven't got a new game to go and play on it. Like, I don't have a PS5 game, an exclusive game. Like, I don't have anything that I'm going, I need to get this out of the box now and I need to plug it in because I want to play
It really
this.
has, but the silicon shortage, I think, really has blunted the excitement that we would usually have with a new console. Because
and it's also driven those delays as well. I mean, these people that are making PS5 games, they're delaying them because why? Because 80% of the people...
Because no one's got a fucking PlayStation 5.
The market, none of them's got it. No one's got it.
Yeah, yeah. So what were your first thoughts? I mean, because there are lots of good reasons to... I hope this courier that's just pulled up outside is not for me. I'm always running for packages lately. and it's going to be right. It'll be for me, just because, Murphy. Anyway.
Do we want to pause quickly on that?
No. Keep going. If I if I hear a noise, you'll know.
Okay. Yeah. The people talked about how big the box was. I guess it is bigger than...
Really? That's a topic?
Well, yeah, definitely. I mean, the size of the console, people are saying, people with smaller lounge rooms or...
Oh, I thought you meant the size of the cardboard box. Sorry.
No, not the cardboard.
Sorry. It is a courier. Give me a sec. I've got a call coming in. Hang on.
So I found, we probably should talk about second beers, but I found a couple of trailers because I just went and rewatched the teaser for the Boba Fett that came out like 2 days ago.
We're back, by the way.
Yeah, we're back. New trailers. It came up with suggestions after it. Have you ever seen Wyrmwood?
No.
It's an Aussie zombie movie.
Not interested.
Oh no!
You said the magic word Aussie.
Oh come on, man! No, it's great. It's fucking.
Unless it's Mad Max.
Yeah, it's zombies cross Mad Max.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
all right.
It's B grade. Don't get me wrong. It's B grade.
It's Australian. That's all you needed to say.
Yeah, but it's original and it's different, and how it plays out in the end is completely different. No, it's completely off the wall, and by the end of it, you feel like whoever did it was definitely writing it on fucking mushrooms. They were 100% on something.
So hang on. Is this trailer trash or is this just a side story about a movie you've already seen?
The trailer trash side of it is Wyrmwood Apocalypse is the second Wyrmwood movie that's coming out in February, and it looks like they just ate mushrooms from the start of it. In this one, they just forego the first 40 minutes of normal zombie movie. I say that in quotation marks again because it's not really, because it's Aussie, it's not really a normal zombie movie. But by the end of it, it's completely fucking balls to the wall. It's fucking batshit crazy. It's fucking great. It's got some of the same characters in it, this one. It follows a similar... Well, it's just an extension of the story. It continues on the same thread. The same thread in the story. And yeah, it's Mad Max Fury Road with zombies.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I might have to check that out. I can't promise you I'll watch all of it, but you were talking about your first thoughts on PS5. The box is bigger, is about as far as we got before a courier turned up at my house at fucking 7:00 at night.
Yeah, the box is bigger. Doesn't bother me. I had a good gap next to the TV that it stood on its end. I was always going to put it on its end.
So vertical, you mean?
Yeah, vertically.
Yeah, okay.
It sits really nicely in the spot next to the TV, so it doesn't even like impose on anything. I didn't have to move anything to put it in. It just slid right in there nicely. The controller feels really nice. I do have to agree with people that have said that. It's a little bigger. It's a little odd with the little cutoffs on the bottom of the little angled cutoffs on the bottom of the grips. But obviously, get used to it. And the
it's just
triggers,
muscle memory, man. Guarantee you that. And I didn't realize the courier was still out there. That's embarrassing after what I said. I guarantee you heard it.
Oh well,
poor guy.
The triggers are with that extra pressure sensitive click to get it to the full click. Yeah, I thought that was a bit weird to start with, but once I started playing Sinking City, I didn't even. If I had it in my hands and I was pressing the buttons, it felt a bit odd. But as soon as I got into a game and actually started using it in the game, I didn't even actually notice it in the slightest.
And I'll tell you what, mate, I pick up a PlayStation 4 controller now and it feels foreign. It really doesn't take long for your brain to kind of adjust to the new size. And you do miss that tactile feel. I mean, I don't know how well the Sinking City has implemented the new controller.
No, not at all. It won't have anything to do with the PlayStation 5. They won't have. I mean, they haven't even patched some of the glitches in it because it's
indie.
Just a small studio. They can't.
But I'll tell you what, the first time you play a AAA title that has implemented the full functionality of that controller, oh my god, it's so good. Yeah, it's such a subtle thing to change the trigger strength when you're pulling a bow back and firing a gun, but it It adds so much to the immersion in a really subtle way that it's surprising.
Yeah, so
Best way I can put it.
I jumped into the Astros playroom because you and Tom said that, just to try the functionality of and I mean that was fine. I mean, it didn't really hold
It's
my attention.
gimmicky in that game, though.
Yeah, and it was fine. I felt that it looked like there'd been a lot of effort put into that game, but I was kind of like, I just get through it to get to the next point, kind of thing. And I know it's only basically a tech demo thing, so I understand that. But the functionality of that seemed nice. It feels nice. It took me a while to find all the bits and pieces in all the different areas for the menus and that. But I sort of sat down with it for sort of half an hour to an hour today, and pulled some bits and pieces across from the PS4, and then I fiddled around with it until I found the proper close app button and then the proper turn off button.
Yeah, it is a little bit different. You're right.
Yeah, where the download, so I could just check how far along a download was. Like that's in a different spot. So I just flicked through it and found all those bits and pieces, which is fine. I mean, upgrade it, change it. It's fine. Make it feel like it's a new thing, not just a revamped old thing. Go for it.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah.
What about the loading time though?
Well, once again, haven't really played anything that it's impacted. So Sinking City is not optimized for it.
It's groundbreakingly different when you play an optimized game for it. Like
the Sinking City was only
AC failures.
Yeah, the Sinking City was, I guess, maybe 2/3 of the load time. It didn't come up with Sinking City usually it says loading, and then it gets to 70%, and then it comes up with 70%, and then jumps to 80%, and then jumps to 90%. This just said loading, and then jumped to press a button to get in.
Yeah, okay.
So that flicked through, but what really changed in Sinking City was the frame rate.
Okay.
It stayed at a constant frame rate and was really nice and smooth. And there was no, there's some bits in Sinking City where you would walk into one of the houses and it would just go black for 2 or 3 seconds while it loaded that area, even though you're not changing maps, and you can literally turn back out, open the door, and walk back out onto the street.
Yeah.
It just hadn't loaded that section.
Just wouldn't load the game assets until you need to.
Until you needed to. And I mean, it probably still doesn't, but it doesn't skip now. I only played it for probably 2 or 3 hours this afternoon, and I didn't experience that once. So maybe when I get into it a little bit more, and just start jumping in some more different locations, it might do it. But that was good. So I am looking forward to jumping into something that's I'm going to chuck Red Dead on. I know Red Dead hasn't been optimized for the PS5 either, but I just think the frame rate and the load times there are going to make a huge difference again as well.
Try Days Gone. You just finished playing that, so you'll have a good appreciation for the step up.
I purposely left mopping up the hordes until I got this, because I thought
that's a significant step up.
Yeah,
and and it's a pretty game to play it in too, so you'll appreciate it, I think.
Well, that's why I want to jump into Red Dead, because Red Dead's just fucking gorgeous, and I'm not going to put The Witcher on until the PS5.
I'm doing the same. Now that I know that there's DLC that I never played through, I thought I'd finished everything there was to finish.
Yeah.
Now that I know there's DLC, I am actually really looking forward to the PS5 version, whereas before I was like, meh. But I'll go in there and finish the DLC now.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'll probably do too, because I've played the main game a couple of times now, and I've only played the Blood and Wine expansion once. So I think I'll do exactly the same. I think I'll jump back in.
I don't think I've played any of them now that I think of it. I thought I had, but I don't know. I'll have to go back and check my trophies, because if I've got any trophies at all in any of the DLCs, it meant I at least started it. But my save game will still be on my PS4, I assume, so it'll be on PS Plus.
Yeah. So there's Blood and Wine, which is the Tucson area, and the other one is...
Wasn't the Great Hunt, because that's the name of the main game, isn't
Wild
it?
Hunt.
Wild Hunt, sorry.
Shit, what was the name? What's the name of the first one? The first one's set in the main in Velen anyway, so you don't actually load a different area, and it's much shorter than the Blood and Wine. It's just it's like an extra side, a more expanded side mission. I think it's a good sort of 5 or 6 hours. Don't
Yeah,
get me
okay.
wrong. It's not short, and it's super interesting too. I mean, they really pull out some different missions like The Witcher does. It's just not.
I
the
don't know
standard
why
stuff.
I didn't play them. I love that fucking game from start to finish. I remember feeling a sense of mourning. I know that sounds really stupid. Only us nerds would understand that, but it felt like a sense of mourning when the game finished.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I've got to give it up now. Days Gone experienced the same thing. So
Yeah.
I don't know why I didn't play the DLC. Maybe I just needed a palate cleanser or something else that I was really looking forward to came out. And I'm like, well, I'll finish the main game. I'll come back to it later and just never did.
Yeah.
Hearts
Hearts of Stone.
of Stone. Yes, the other DLC. Cool. Well, I'm glad you finally got your PlayStation 5. I've had fuck all luck getting my second one. I know that's greedy, so I guess I'm okay with not getting a second one and having to wait a while. It's just I want to stream, but I don't want to have to cart between the living room and the study.
Yeah, well, I think that's the extra benefit I have now too, and this is absolute fucking first world shit. That
Everything we talk about first world.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, so it's now that I've got the PlayStation 5, I can actually disconnect that there, bring it in here, plug it into the monitor, and play without disturbing Louise. She can have the PlayStation to, because all of our apps are
Watch
on that.
TV and stuff.
Netflix is all through the PlayStation, so it's much easier for her not to be disturbed.
Yep.
Going forward. Anyway, I'm almost finished my second beer. What's yours? A stout of some sort. A badly poured one.
A badly poured one. It's fucking spectacular, though. It is the Sabbath Pastry Stout by... I don't know. It says Otherside Creative Release.
Yeah, Otherside's a WA brewery.
Yeah, there's just a lot of logos on here, so it's hard to tell.
The Otherside's logo is a hot air balloon.
Yep, which it has, a hot air balloon.
There you go.
It's also got the name of the artist and his logo, and it's got the brewer and his name and contact details. And Tapped, Developing Creative Industries. It's a 6.6%... Oh, I'm going to be smashed, even with free beers. 6.6% pastry stout, and it's like drinking chocolate milk.
Yeah.
It is really fucking nice, actually. It's got a little bit of vanilla, I would say. I don't know. I usually cheat by reading the can and know roughly what to expect, and then I'll go, yeah, actually, I can taste that, and then I can declare that I tasted it. But I got no notes to go on. But I do get a bit of vanilla, but it's primarily chocolate bodied, and it's sweet and exactly what I wanted. Just not sure about the 6.6. I'm going to be slurring up the 3 beers.
Yeah, just top you off. I said to you, not on the recording, I have not had that many Capital Brewing beers previously. So the Capital beers had been down at Quaker Cellar, so I thought I'd grab this and their NEPA, which is the one I'll do next, because they just won Best ACT Brewery for the Indie Awards that were out on Thursday night. And this is their Hop Rocker. I've heard of this many, many a times, and many people have told me how good it is. And it's really nice. It's a West Coast IPA. It's got some good tropical fruit, hop characters, got a good level of bitterness. It's got a good, nice malt balanced body. It's not over the top in ABV, which is nice as well. It's 6.1%. So
Still up there.
It happily sits in that IPA territory. I like anything sort of IPAs, anything from sort of 5.8 to 6.5. Anything above that starts to get too much.
You've been talking, the last 2 episodes, you've been talking about how much you love 3.5 to 4.5% beers.
No. For IPA.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's style specific.
Yeah. No, that's what I said. Yeah, for IPA, I like them in that sort of 5 to 6.5%.
Yeah.
Anything higher than that kind of puts me off a little bit. I know 5.8 technically isn't an IPA, but get over yourselves.
What do you mean? Is that the threshold for a Imperial?
I think the threshold for an IPA is like 6%, 6.1 or something like that.
Anything over that's a double.
No, other way. Anything under it is an American Pale.
Oh, right.
6% up is IPA, according to style guidelines.
Okay.
Something like that.
That's, wow. That seems mainstream knowledge, and I had no fucking idea.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 6%. Pretty sure. I should fucking know these things, but when I judge, I have the style guidelines in front of me, so I don't need to know these things. Yeah, it's really nice. I've always liked their simplicity in their designs. It's simple, but still like crooked and quirky, and not quirky, but like still looks handmade kind of thing. It's simple, but not completely straight lines.
You missed you were looking at your can. I went to grab my glass and I came so fucking close to spilling a half a glass of beer on my brand new ridiculous sized computer screen. I'll have to rewind the tape for you later and just play you back the look of on my face. You know that? Oh fuck!
That could be the YouTube short for this.
Mate, I just shat myself. I just need to go check my pants. Fucking hell. That was extremely close to spilling all over that screen.
What's next?
Well, I want to talk, like, I've been bursting at the seams, as anyone on our Discord channel or either of our 2 WhatsApp channels will tell you. I have not stopped talking about Wheel of Time since it came out.
I thought you were going to talk about Foundation, but we'll get to that, I guess.
Yeah, Foundation.
Deal with Wheel of Time first.
I love this fucking series.
Okay, tell me first, did they drop the whole first series in one, or is it a weekly release?
No,
or
it's a weekly release.
Okay, so did they drop 1 or 2?
They dropped 3 episodes immediately.
Yeah,
and then a week later, so it's coming out every Friday, which has filled the void from Foundation and a few other shows that I've been watching that all come out fucking Friday. So yeah, they're releasing every Friday. So there's now 4 episodes out. But I kind of want to just go back, just really, really quickly just talk about the source material. Because I've actually gone back and started rereading the books again. It's how much I've been enjoying the series. And how disconnected or kind of they've tweaked it. From the books to the TV series, they've made some changes. And my memory, because it's... So that the series of books is 13 books. And they're each between 700 and 1,200 pages long. So you're talking... 2 Bibles back to back, basically, for each book. So Robert Jordan wrote the first 11 books, then passed away, and his wife was his publisher or editor. I think she was his editor his whole career. All good.
Yep.
So she actually basically discovered him and became his editor, and then married him. So she handed his notes to another author called Brandon Sanderson, who has gone on to win like major awards in the science fiction and fantasy community himself. But his style was so close to Robert Jordan's that basically he worked on the last 2 books to tell the end of the story. I mean, it would have been massively disappointing for the fans to read 11 books out of a 13-book series and never get to the end of the story. You're talking just shy of 100 million copies of the books sold.
Yeah, wow.
Extremely fucking popular. And it was released in 1990, the first book, The Eye of the World. And for most people, including myself, there are moments in those books that you just associate your life story with where you were. Like, you go back and read it now, you can talk about what was going on in your life. It was groundbreaking in the sense that in the early 90s, he wrote books where in the world, women have all of the power, not men. And so these days that would be not uncommon. Back then, it was pretty, wouldn't say groundbreaking, but pretty rare. So those are the books. I read them, starting, I guess, 20 years ago and finishing maybe 10 years ago. Maybe more recently than that. You're going to have to turn a light on because you've just gone from Casper to
no. Yeah,
Shadow to
I'm
Casper
listening.
again.
I just wanted to look at what all the top-selling fantasy books of all time were. Yeah, so keep going.
Well, Dune will be in there. Well, I guess that's not fantasy. It's
fantasy.
sci-fi.
You keep talking.
So
I'll look at what's on here.
Yeah. Okay. It'll be the first Dragonlance book will be up there. I'm just predicting for you. Obviously, Lord of the Rings. This will be in there. Anyway, so they've recently released the series.
Number 8.
Wheel of Time?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. What's number 1?
Number 1 is, oh, God, do you want to guess?
Lord of the Rings?
No,
Hobbit?
it's number 2.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
What's number 1?
Fucking Harry Potter.
Okay.
Yeah. That was exactly the right.
It's disappointing. It's not out of place, but it's just disappointing.
Yeah, because
somehow.
it's top selling. So there's 450 million copies sold. Lord of the Rings, 150 million copies. The Hobbit was number 3, 142 million. La Petite Prince, the Little Prince, 140 million. Chronicles of Narnia, 120 million. Fucking Twilight.
How is that? That's a different kind of fantasy. That's more like teen fucking sexual awakening fantasy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interview with the Vampire and Wheel of Time, Discworld, Color of Magic, Song of Fire and Ice.
That's a brilliant book too.
Fucking Watership Down? I don't think that's...
Anyway, okay.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you look at Wikipedia and any moron with an account can fucking update it.
Yeah, it's not Wikipedia. It's actually an article.
I'm sure it's true.
I knew.
Yeah. So look, they've released this TV series. They're supposedly spending $10 million an episode, which is considerably more than the first 3 or 4 seasons of Game of Thrones. And the storyline in the books is fucking epic. And like I started rereading the first book yesterday, and I'm 200 pages down. Like, I just cannot put the book down. It starts slow in the book. It describes an old hobbit town, basically. And he actually says in an interview that he was trying to create that spirit of Tolkien's Hobbiton with his original village where these kids start. In the books, they're about 15, 16, somewhere in that kind of age bracket. And then as the books continue, they grow up pretty quickly until their early 20s. Obviously, you can't do that in a TV series. Because if you're going to go, a book a season, which it looks like they're roughly doing, your actors aren't going to grow up fast enough to fucking to align. So they've actually in the TV series they've aged them up. They're in their early 20s. They're coming of age, and it basically tells the story of, the Wheel of Time is reincarnation. There's a lot of Eastern philosophy and Eastern religion baked into this world. Reincarnation is an accepted thing, that you live lives over and over, and you don't necessarily remember your past lives, but history repeats itself, and you've got different ages of, and everyone kind of talks about the ages in the past and ages in the future. But there is the Dark One, who is, trapped behind a barrier that the Creator created to protect the world from his evil. And then you've got the Dragon, who is and this is where it gets weird.
This is where it gets weird?
He's a man. And I'm already starting to get pissed, so I'm probably doing a shit job of explaining what is pretty critical but also pretty complicated topic, like content. But the magic in the world, it is a fantasy world, the magic in the world can only be touched by women safely, which is why women have all the power in this universe. They're able to weave the fabric of the universe to create magic. And they can touch this one power, or this one true source, to cast spells of healing and, fireballs and lightning and all the sort of shit you would expect out of magic. When a man touches that same power, and it's the male half of the one power, it's Seidan and Seidin, so it's very much the yin and yang. And in fact, the symbology behind the books is yin and yang. When a male touches it, it's been corrupted by the Dark One, so it drives him mad when he touches the one power. So the book is about the dragon, the prophesized male who can touch the true source without going mad, and who will either remake the world and restore balance, and it is very much about balance rather than defeating evil, or he will break the world forever. It's one of the two, and no one knows which it is.
It's the Quidouts Haderach of...
Yes, very much.
Of the fantasy world, yeah.
And it is very much based on that same Eastern philosophic source material too. So that's the basic premise of the book and of the TV series. They've aged them up. For $10 million an episode, the first episode was rushed as fuck. And the reason why I wanted to go back and read the books was to see the pacing. I remember the pacing in the books being a lot slower. They spent quite a lot of time in the village establishing the base characters before events force this group of people together. This lady magician comes to town, the Aes Sedai, and she's hunting for something with her warder, which is a male swords fighter who is bonded to her through the power of this, the true power. They're hunting for the Dragon Reborn. And they come to this village not knowing precisely who it is, just as a bunch of evil Trollocs, which are basically beastmen in that world, invade the village to find the same thing. The Dark One's peoples have come for the Dragon Reborn. But again, the Dark One's also not sure who precisely it is. It's a boy in the books, or in the new TV series, because of inclusionism, it's now a boy or a girl, which I understand why they've updated certain things for modern society. There's a lot more ethnic diversity in the TV series than there is in the books. But fundamentally, the books are about binary gender roles, and they are very different gender roles to our society, but they are also very different from each other in the books society. And so changing that for me, and probably won't mean anything like when it bears out, but it just felt like I don't know what repercussions it's going to have in the rest of the story. I don't actually care. I don't have an opinion. I mean, obviously diversity is important in modern society, but at the same time, changing a source material in a foundational way like that, hopefully it's not foundational. Hopefully it doesn't break the story, because it is extremely important in the books. They're looking for the dragon, and the reason why he is such a threat to society is because it is a male who touches the true source and may go mad and break the world.
Which can only be driven, the magic can only be driven by females. So, once again, our opinions are exactly the same. The diversity and everything like that. But this is a story that was written in a different time. And this is written in a fantasy world where there is a divisional line there for a purpose. It's
for a purpose. And ironically, the inequality is actually that women have more power than men in this society. And it's not just because women, or it's not as a direct result of women being able to touch magic and men not. It's also, even in the villages, you have the village council, a bunch of blokes, and they run the village, but the women's circle just run roughshod over the top of the village council, which is a bunch of girls.
Yeah.
So, excuse me. I don't know where that came from. All aspects of society are fundamentally run by women.
Yeah. It's exactly the same as Dune. I mean, if you changed the Quiddat Tatarak from being the male that can tap into this female-driven power of the Bene Gesserit, you lose the purpose of the story.
He's not special anymore. So I don't understand why they've made that change. I understand why they aged up the actors. They've had to twist the start of the storyline around the fact that they've aged them up. They're now having sex. There was a lot of sexual tension between a couple of early characters in the books, but obviously now they're just shagging, which makes sense. It's probably not that big a change. But the biggest issue I've had...
Probably that's just modernization.
Yes, but they were also older. The idea that you could have 3 guys and 2 girls all in their early 20s and none of them have had sex and they were all completely innocent, it's not very realistic even back then.
Yep.
So I'm cool with all those changes. What I didn't like was the pacing in the first episode. I get that they've got to hook a new audience who haven't read the books whilst paying respect to the original material for the fans, but the pacing for the whole first episode felt off. It was way too rushed. And you see some TV series fail because the first episode's too slow. They're establishing characters and building characters, and they don't get into the action fast enough, and it loses viewer interest. But these guys just felt like they went way too far the other way. And so the pacing felt a bit jilted. And going back to having reread the first 35% of the book, of the first book, they managed to cram 25% of the book into one episode. and skipped over a shitload of content. Now, was it important content? Not really. But, presumably they're covering a book per season, and they've already talked about these actors have signed on for a decade of work. If they're successful, they will cover all 13 books in the TV series. So they're talking 10 to 13 seasons.
And it's an Amazon exclusive, isn't it? Like it's Amazon driving and paying for all this.
Yes. The actors love the source material. They've been filming for 2 years. So whilst we're just getting it now, they've already been renewed and they're finishing principal photography for season 2. Before it was even released. So Amazon have taken a fairly decent sized risk. At $10 million an episode and 8 to 10 episodes per season, that's a lot of lolly to lay down and then renew before anyone's even seen it.
Yeah.
But the second episode got better, and it's not a perfect replica of my fond memories of the content in the book that was covered in that episode, but it was good enough. The third episode really started to feel like they hit their stride in terms of storytelling, and the fourth blew my fucking mind.
No, it's good. And how many in the season?
It's either 8 or 10. I can't recall.
Yeah, I mean that's a good number.
I'm super excited. So I watched episode 4, finished it, went outside, had a beer and a smoke, and then went back in and rewatched episode 4. Now, I love the content. So I'm a massive fan, so it's not going to be everybody. And the other thing is, he writes a lot of language, or he's made up a lot of words, and so it's interesting to hear, reading them in the book, they make perfect sense to your brain. You pick a translation, how the word sounds in your head, and that's how you read it every time. When you hear someone mumble it in the middle of a sentence on screen, it's easy to miss what the fuck they said. So in fact, the second time... and Tom complained that they mumbled all the way through the first episode. I disagree. I think his speakers are fucked. I understood what they were saying, but I have to admit, I did watch it, episode 4, the second time with subtitles on, just to say, is that how they pronounce that word? That's really interesting. That's not the enunciation that I had selected in my head when I read the book. So you're talking Aes so the magicians, the lady magicians throughout the book are the Aes AES space SEDAI, and in the TV series they Aes Sedai, and it's got a kind of inflection on it that I didn't expect. And there's a lot of other stuff like that. So I'm a mad fan. I'm gushing over this fucking series, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean you've dropped a couple of things in the chat talking about it. I think Ben was watching it as well. Yeah.
And Alistair on we've been talking about that on Discord, and I'm just checking how many episodes. I think it's 8. Yeah.
Funny enough, I just cancelled our fucking Amazon subscription yesterday. I didn't even goddamn think of fucking Wheel of Time. Oh well, I'll wait until the whole season's out, and then I'll buy it for a month and pump through it.
I might be able to solve that problem for you anyway, Dan.
Yeah. Don't say that.
We're married, aren't we? Family sharing and all that. Fucking, I'm serious. And I think I got shit on this podcast the other day. I'm the only one in my entire world that I know of that actually pays for every subscription service that I want to watch. I'm the only person I know that doesn't share it. So
I do. I pay for all of mine, and then all of our other family members get our extra subscriptions.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
But look, I would encourage anyone who's into a good... To me, the content is more exciting and interesting and intricate than Lord of the Rings. And I know that's going to polarize people. That's fine. It's just my opinion. I love the Lord of the Rings content or the IP, but I love this IP more. And there's more to the story. It's not 3 books, it's fucking 14. So obviously he's had a lot more time to develop that. The worlds and the unique cultures and how they interact with each other and how things are different. So, I mean, there's 2 books in the middle where it's literally just about the various aspects of the magic within the Aes Sedai. So they each, when they come of age and they learn how to weave this true source, they select an Aja. And so the green Aja are the battle Aja. They're out there to defend people and they're the fireball casters and, they fight in wars and stuff. The red Aja hunt down male source touchers before they break the world and kill people. That's their entire existence. The blue Aja are spies. The brown Aja are like bookworms. They're studying lost magics, if you like. There's a lot of knowledge from the past ages that they've lost. And so there's 2 books in the middle where quite a lot of the books are given over to the bickering between the Ajas and the politics that goes inside their White Tower. And it's so fucking intricate how much content he's put into that society. And then he'll go and spend time with people who live in the wasteland who wear like robes. They're very much Middle Eastern. And when they raise their veil above to their nose and they cover their mouth and nose, that means you're about to die because they go to war by raising their veil. And when they talk to you, they say, may you always find water and shade, because their entire society is built around the fact that they live in the wastelands. It's a nuclear holocaust.
Dune.
Yeah,
everything you keep saying is, it's all sort of, I mean, that whole series, that whole, I mean, they're all intertwined. I mean, you can read so many of them and find similarities across the board. So, yeah, super interesting.
So, I would encourage anyone who's into that kind of content, get through a couple of episodes. Let it find its stride. Like any good series, they do need a couple of episodes to kind of, find their way. The actors' chemistry is there during casting, but they need time to develop that chemistry on screen. Don't judge it by watching one episode. That's a mistake Tom seems to be making a lot lately, and he's not here to defend himself. I'm calling him out.
This is always the problem when these sort of things come up, and especially nowadays where they're doing good adaptations of good and close to source adaptations of book series and things like that, and even remakes of old things. It's like, I know of Wheel of Time. I've thought about reading it many times over the years. Never gotten around to it. I like fantasy stuff, and once I start reading fantasy stuff, I do like it, but it's definitely not my go-to. And it's now, do I hit the source material first, or do I hit the TV show first? So, and it's...
if you want my opinion, because I'm sure you're not the only person asking yourself that question, they're different enough and yet similar enough that you could, and I am, doing both.
So, but my biggest dispute, and like I already know, my head says one thing and my heart says the other thing. My head saying, go and watch a TV show. It's way easier. It's accessible. It's there. You can do it. It's not a 700-page book. My heart says to me, don't do that, because that's then going to give you preconceptions of characters and pronunciation of words. And then when you go and
read the book,
before you go and read the book, where you should read the book, get the source material, and have your own opinion on the source material before you then go and delve in. And
it's I mean, it depends on how quickly you can read a 750-page book, because up to that point it's irrelevant, right? If it takes you 2 weeks to read a book that size, then go and watch the TV series and you've only got 6 episodes to get through and you haven't even finished the season on TV. So you could very much do both. Look, the one thing I will say is what makes the material great is the author in the books, right? Robert Jordan, to write 14 books, and there were parts in the middle of the 14 books that felt a bit drawn out and filler. He was a very verbose writer, but he's one of those guys that every single book's climax, you're just thirsty for more. Like, you sit there and you're fucking excitedly smiling like an idiot into the page in bed. Like, that's the sort of writer he is.
Yeah.
What I'm worried about is in the TV series, how are they going to adapt how much is going on inside the heads of these characters? It's going to take some deft screenwriting skills. Perrin, one of the 3 main boys that they're following, is this big, lumbering guy who's always been a little bit... He's slow and thoughtful because he doesn't want to hurt people accidentally, because he's aware of his own strength and bulk. He's a blacksmith's son, right? But he's constantly going through this in his head of, I need to slow down or I might hurt somebody accidentally. And he in the books, they're the 3 main boy characters they're following, because there's 3 boys and 2 girls. They're very different personalities, but that plays out through inner monologue in the books. in the TV series, you don't have that inner monologue.
Mm.
So it's going to be interesting to see how they deal with that. It's going to take some deft writing to run around that. Now, with Perrin, that big lumbering guy, they've dealt with that pretty much in the first episode. He accidentally kills somebody. He's being faced with these Trollocs he's never seen. None of them. They're all completely innocent kids in a village where it's always been safe. And suddenly these creatures are attacking, and he accidentally kills somebody that he didn't mean to kill. And so that's kind of how they've dealt with that. But he tortures himself for the first couple of books of that through that inner monologue, and I don't know how that's going to play out. So it's going to be really interesting to see. That's why I'm so fucking excited.
They'll find ways. I mean, if
they're good,
they're clever these days.
If they're good,
yeah, if they're good, definitely. Yep. Okay, I'm going to go and grab my third. Do we want to pause for just 30 seconds and go and grab the thirds, and you can punch a dart.
Punch a dart.
You can punch.
We'll try and get. We've only covered like 3 topics, and we've got 4 more to go. And I thought this would be a short episode.
No, we've got to do a short episode. I think I've got one more left in me, and only about 45 minutes before I actually fall asleep sitting where I am. Cool. For any of our international listeners, which we do have some, punching a dart is having a cigarette.
Smoking a cigarette. All right, we'll be right back.
Hey,
hey,
and we're back. Although, kind of, sort of, because Dan's still fixing his head.
I can't get my hair to sit properly with my fucking headphones.
Sorry, I've got no hair.
It's in that shitty stage where it's not long enough to tie back and too short to sit properly.
I'm going down the what's his name? Happy doll's hair path sometime soon, I think. Fucking implants. You said you've got one more topic left in you.
Do I? Oh, yeah. Well, one decent sized one, two little ones.
That is not the beer that I thought I was getting.
What have you got? Why don't you talk about that first?
Okay, just to buy you some time.
Buy me some time to read the run sheet.
This is called Czech 1-2, which is funny because it's a pun. It's actually Czech as in the country. It's another Lupamax, so it's a collaboration between Sydney Brewery and HPA. And they've used 100%
Australia.
Yep, and they've used 100% SARS Lupamax enriched hop pellets to produce our take on a Bohemian style pilsner. Czech 1-2 is a slight sweet and toasted biscuit-like malt. See, this is where I cheat. It tastes biscuity, Dan. Biscuit-like malt character attributed from use of traditional Bohemian pilsner malt. SARS Lupamax gives spicy, herbal, noble hop characteristics and a notable perceived bitterness. I don't know what the ABV is. It's probably 11%. I don't know. It's 5.0.
I wouldn't have said Czech pilsners were
too strong.
Biscuity. But what the fuck do I know? I haven't used enough Bohemian Pilsner malt to really know. But I definitely agree with their description of the SARS hops.
It's like, I know this is going to sound like a weird description. It's not going to make sense. But it's almost like, you know that farmhouse twang you get in a farmhouse ale as opposed to a typical pale? If you apply that conceptually to a pilsner, it's still very much a pilsner. It has that bite to it that you get out of a typical pilsner, but it has an odd twang to it. It's not farmhouse, but it's got that oddness to it, the way that a farmhouse has an oddness compared to a typical pale.
It's probably
make any sense whatsoever.
Yeah, to an extent. It's probably the noble hop. It's probably the SARS hop.
It has quite tasty though. I don't get any biscuitiness out of it though. I just get.
I think
Pilsner.
that's good. I think that's good. Yeah, I mean, I like my pilsners like clean and sharp, and
it is very dry.
Clean malt profile. Yeah, dry. That side of it, especially Czech pilsners. I mean, all of them. Who fucking cares where it comes from?
Yeah,
as long as a pilsner is nice and it's got a solid bitterness and some good,
has
noble hop character.
Does have bitterness, but that's a very dry. Like it's almost cottonmouth dry.
Oh,
like
really?
You swallow and you touch your tongue to the top of the roof of your mouth and it's dry as a bone.
Like I said, I've got one. I've got that pack in the fridge at work, so I'll think about that when I crack it open.
What are you drinking, Dan?
I have another Capital. I have their Nipa, their Hang Loose juice. Their Nipa. We should hold it up. It's a 6%, and it's
good.
Yeah, it's not as good as the other one.
Okay.
It's definitely. I mean, it's good. I mean, it's got the.
You're getting some ASMR action in there, mate.
That tropical fruit sort of character to it without the bitterness behind it. I guess it's more of, I don't know. It probably falls for me more in that hazy pale category than a Nipa.
Okay.
It's just, it doesn't seem quite juicy enough for it to be a Nipa. It's quite thin-bodied, but that doesn't bother me either because that's how I like them. I don't like big, heavy ones that feel like I'm chewing on the cloudiness in them. Yeah, I struggle with it being called an IPA, but it's still quite a refreshing, nice, well-made, no head retention, but you get that sometimes with the ones that have.
I've got the same with mine, mate.
Really high hop. Oh wow!
Yeah, and that's a clean
it
glass
looks
too.
Fucking super clear though.
Oh, it is. Yeah, it is. And
Like,
hang on.
With the horribly pixelated screen that I have.
No,
of
it
you
is
at the moment,
crystal
I can
fucking
still
clear.
tell it's crystal clear.
Yeah. It's a Pilsner.
Yeah,
if it wasn't filtered, there'd be something wrong with it, right? It wouldn't be a Pilsner.
Oh yeah, definitely, 100%. I mean, this is really good. It sounds like I don't like it. I do really like it, but I just struggle with it being called a Nipa, and I think the West Coast was better.
Okay, fair enough.
That's actually a personal opinion. If you put this next to somebody who liked less bitter Nipa IPAs, the Nipa IPAs, New England IPAs, Nipas over West Coast IPAs, they would probably say this is better than the West Coast. But I'm through and through a West Coast man, so I think the West Coast was actually a better beer.
Yeah, I mean, I went out of my way tonight to pick, because I know we're only doing 3 beers, but I went out of my way to pick stuff that's a little bit out of my wheelhouse. Because I'm very much a sour boy, and I try a lot of Nipas because that's what we pick up at breweries these days. There's a lot of Nipas. That's the movement. And then if you want to kind of bust out of that, then you're in an IPA or a West Coast IPA. So tonight I kind of went out of my way to pick stuff that was different. Red IPA, everybody knows I hate. Pastry stout, and then a Pilsner. So I've got plenty of West Coasts in the fridge, but just kind of a bit bored. Just need a little bit more variety in my palate.
Yeah, well, I mean that's the beauty of getting things like you're drinking now. I mean a really nice, clean
Pilsner,
well-made lager.
Yeah. And it's also got a twist on it because it is very much the Lupamax pack is designed to kind of draw out and give a lot of attention to the Lupamax concentration process in the hops.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how those West Coasts go, actually. But I'll
do some reading up. Yeah, I'll do some reading up on that Lupamax. I have spoken to my mate who works for HBA about it, but at the time it went in one ear and out the other because I didn't have anything in front of me as reference. So I will look into it and come back to you with a technical readout of the battle station.
Fair enough.
On that one.
What do you want to cover, mate? I've got a few topics, but
yeah, well, definitely one of those. I'm undecided whether I want to. I definitely don't want to talk about Hawkeye. You and Tom can talk about that one when it comes because I do not give a flying fuck, and I am not going to watch it.
Okay.
So that's that was part of my Shang-Chi and the current MCU
just a bit over
conversation. I'm completely over it. I have zero interest in the Eternals. I had a lot of interest in Shang-Chi because of I really wanted that martial arts.
I love baiting you into talking about MCU. A topic you've just declared you don't want to talk about. It works every fucking time.
Yeah. Well, we can go
because you're passionate about it. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, we can go into it if you want. I just thought having Tom around to talk about the Eternals.
I haven't seen the Eternals, and I will go and see it. But you know what? I've not been in a rush. In fact, there's been nothing released in the cinemas. I've been in a rush to go.
I know that reverberated. I meant to.
I didn't even understand the word that you said while you're reverbing.
Dune is out this week.
That I will go to the cinemas for. I will fucking drive out to the west where you are to see it with you if you want company. Because
we're going. Me and Louise are going on Sunday night.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't want to crash your little husband and wife party. Yeah, whatever.
Yep.
I just hate going to the cinemas by myself. It's just one of those things. I'll happily sit in a fucking restaurant and eat a dinner by myself, but I don't want to go to the movies by myself. It's one of those idiosyncrasies. I think the idiot part is the emphasis there.
Yeah, I can. Well, yeah. I mean, I have no interest, and even I know you and Tom are excited about Spider-Man No Way Home or fucking Long Way Home or fucking whatever the distance and the play on home is this time.
I'm not as interested as I was. I've got to say, there's some new content out that I have we're not going to talk about this, right? But this episode, but there's a series on, I don't know, one of the fucking streaming services called Invasion. I think it might even be Apple. And I hated it. I think we're up to 7 episodes, and it's about an alien invasion and, the apocalypse of Earth, and it's the end. And
I'm sure I saw a trailer for it.
And yet, for the first 5 fucking episodes, you don't see a single alien. It's just so slow and psychological and impact on the family. And I'm sitting there going, is this ever going to get good? Like, I feel like I'm too many episodes in now to not see the fucking aliens, to at least see what the CGI team came up with. And yet, now that I'm in episode 7 or 8, it's actually really good. And it's not about the aliens.
Okay.
You've seen, but you've got no idea why they're there. You have seen a few aliens, and they're so nondescript, they may as well be the Blob. But it's actually got me hooked now, and I don't know why. I know that sounds weird, but I genuinely don't know why I want to watch it. Because on the surface, I look at it and go, oh, fucking great, another episode. But then I'm like, I really want to watch. I just want to see what happens next. And I'll get halfway through the episode, and there'll be a 10-minute phone conversation with an answering machine with the guy having this emotional breakdown to his ex-wife on the other side of the world. And I'm like, fuck this shit, and turn it off. And then as soon as I turn it off, I'm like, okay, I got to know what happens for the rest of the episode. So I go back and watch it again. I know it sounds really weird. I'm not making sense, and I'm pretty pissy now.
No, you kind of do. I mean, that's a little bit. When I was talking about Midnight Mass, like last episode or the one before, I can't remember which one it was. When I was talking about the quite long drawn out, and once again, drawn out is probably not the way to talk about it. These conversation between these these people, it's usually just two people, in these single scenes that take up like 15 minutes of a 45-minute episode.
Yeah.
But then you go, no, I'm here for the creature feature part of this this thing, and this isn't what I came to this series for. But you know what? This is written really well, and this really makes me feel for these characters. And I mean, I guess it just comes down to well written.
Yeah,
it's engaging and well written, and you want to see what happens.
I don't even know if Invasion is well written. I'm invested in the characters. I just don't know why. It's like it's hard to describe. I don't know why, but look, it's not a great series, but it's not a terrible series either. I don't want to talk about Foundation because that's just depressing, really. So, Army of Thieves. Have you seen Army of Thieves, the prequel to Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead?
No, but I will, because I quite liked that safecracker character. I thought he was humorous and quirky enough in his own way.
So I won't go into any, like, it's easy not to spoil it, but because you know what it's about. It's about a safecracker cracking safes, right? End of. Not what I expected. Not nearly as action-packed as like a Ocean's 11, which is kind of what I did expect, a Zack Snyder spin on that kind of grand heist thing. that theme.
Okay, I guess I didn't. I think I guess I'll give you my opinion before you go into any further in it. Just where my mind went was, my mind kind of went to like almost that single room scene where he's there with the safe, and it was more of that sort of stuff rather than acrobats jumping around in vaults that have. I changed that doormat in the fucking vault last week, so this is a replay of that video kind of thing.
Yeah. It's more actually. It's probably closer to Ocean's 11 than Single Room. Like,
really? Okay, that disappoints me.
But it's not. It wasn't an unenjoyable watch, but it was very much a popcorn movie. And it's weird in the sense that there's continuity to the characters and the way that Zack Snyder tells the story, and yet there's a discontinuity to the pacing and the... It was satirical in the way that the zombie apocalypse was going on in the background. It felt very Shaun of the Dead at times. You know, at the start of Shaun of the Dead, and he's fucking yawning, and you think he's a zombie, but he's just having a yawn, and there's shit going on in the background. Somebody walks past. I remember him walking up the street the first time I watched Shaun of the Dead. The chubbier dude walks up the street, and he thinks the postman... He has a conversation with the postman. The postman's a fucking zombie. I think it's a postman.
No. It's Simon Pegg. Nick Frost is inside on the couch playing PlayStation. So in the first part, he walks on a normal day, the day before, down to the corner store.
And then almost nothing has changed after the zombies have taken over.
And then the next day, well, everything's changed, but the same beats.
Yeah.
So the jogger's there, but the jogger's running away from a zombie. The car alarm's going off, but it's not because a kid kicked a soccer ball into it. It's going off because it's crashed and the zombies are in it.
I'm going to watch that movie tonight after this. I've decided. It's been a while.
Shaun of the Dead's a fucking awesome
I love
movie.
that movie, but it's been a while since I've seen it. But it felt like, you know, these safecrackers, and it is a team, and it is a little bit kind of Ocean's 11 without the intricacy and the big reveal at the end, the way that Ocean's 11 kind of sets you up for, I think I know what the story is, and then right at the end they do the big reveal and it's all tipped on its head. That's kind of their formula. There's none of that in this, but it is very much a team of people rolling over banks and cracking safes. And for him, the safecracker's only in it for the safes. And it feels almost like a Houdini-style movie in the sense that he's just there for the magic behind the engineering in the safe. And in the background, on the news, while they're telling the story, the zombie apocalypse is unfolding outside. So it wasn't what I expected out of Zack Snyder. I expected it to be a little bit more lead into Army of the Dead in a more direct way, rather than just being a story set in the universe. But it does end exactly with the scene that towards the start when they meet the safecracker in Army of the Dead.
Yeah. Okay.
So that final scene when they walk in and they roll out the fucking blueprints for the safe they want him to crack, that is in the last couple of seconds of Army of Thieves. But I found it a little disappointing. It was a good movie in itself, but as a prequel to what was such a great film in Army of the Dead, it just felt like a bit of a miss.
It's funny. It's funny you say that, and we've just spoken about the opinions on what we thought it might have been. I thought of a little thing that maybe we could do would be watch the first 20 minutes of a movie and talk about what the like individually and record it just as a one single person, and what how we think that the rest of the movie is going to play out, and then come back later on and record how it actually played out. It'd be really interesting to look at things like that about Hollywood tropes, and like, can you like? There's so many movies that you go in the first 30 seconds. Yeah, well,
you know
that guy's the bad guy. This is this.
I used to
twist
drive. I have driven girlfriends fucking nuts my entire life because, you know, and it is intellectual bragging, right? It took me a while to realize it because I had no control over just the words coming out of my mouth. But as soon as you figure out the plot in the movie, I'm the sort of person that will blurt it out. Oh, this is going to happen. And it's a prediction, but 99% of the time it's right. And it's not fucking hard to figure out the formula, right? if that's a multi-million-dollar actor and he's not established as one of the main characters, then he's going to be the big bad.
Yeah.
And so he can masquerade as, we don't know who the big bad guy is. It's a mystery. It's the guy that you spent $100 million employing for the fucking movie. Like, it's not that difficult.
So that movie I watched a few weeks ago called Kate, it's basically John Wick with Lady. And Woody Harrelson is the mentor.
Right.
And like in the first 2 seconds, they're on screen and like he's talking her through like the mission that they're on at the start. And you go, okay, Woody Harrelson's going to be the bad guy. Like the first two people on screen, something's going to go south somewhere in the first 10 minutes of the fucking movie, and it turned out in the end that it was him all along. And I got most of the way through the movie, and turned to Louise and said, "Look, I know this is going to happen, but I would really like it not to happen. I would really like someone to
surprise me just once."
That's exactly it. Someone
bring
just
in
to
an
go,
Anthony Hopkins right at the end and just blow my mind.
But it's not even that. Like it's not hard just to just be fucking creative in your writing. Like just don't. And like, can I write a Hollywood movie? No, I couldn't write a fucking Hollywood movie. But if we can pick the tropes this badly, looking at the first 10 minutes,
then it's tired and fatigued and needs to be revamped.
That's exactly it. And all it takes me to go, yes, all it takes for me to go, that was a good movie. Hey, that was a very good movie or a great movie, would be the last 5 minutes of it not being the guy that I go in the first 10 minutes of the 2-hour movie. It's him.
Yeah.
That's all they've got to do. That's all they've got to do is go, you know what? He's the father mentor to this girl that he brought up and trained as an assassin. He's not going to be the asshole bad guy in the end. He's going to be the father all the way through. And he's going to either sacrifice himself to save her, or he's going to be at the end with her and help her out. Like,
you're
that's
right.
all you've got to do.
That is what makes good movies versus great movies. So I think, was it Switch with... was a movie with Will Smith.
Will Smith.
Shut up. I'm thinking Switch, Will Smith, and trying not to burp into the microphone and all at the same time. And that's how it came out. Now, what was the movie where he's the thief and he's teaching the Aussie actress how to be a thief?
Oh, Margot Robbie. I haven't actually seen that.
It's actually a really good movie. And I liked it because you can predict what's going to happen, and they use that information against you, and I really enjoyed that. So the big reveal at the end is it leads you down a path that you know the trope, and so you predict what's going to happen, and there's just a hook and a twist at the end. You go, didn't see that coming. That was cool. And it's almost like some writers realize how tropey Hollywood has become and actually use that against you to leave you with a breath of fresh air. I really enjoy that.
And you talk about that. I think it might be called Switch. Is it called?
I just looked it up, and I don't think it's called Switch.
A Will Smith movie is called Switch.
Okay, I'll find it while you talk.
So I think that is one of the good things that and James Bond uses.
It's called Focus.
Okay. James Bond uses the tropes all the way through, start to finish. They are down and out action movies, and very rarely does anything surprise you. They try to throw bits and pieces in there, but I think that's one of the reasons why I loved Casino Royale as much as I did.
Yeah,
it got all the way through that. You got all the way through. Lashif, who was meant to be the big bad, gets assassinated as you go through. You get the other guy that he ripped off swinging the... no, it was Lashif swinging the rope.
Into the ball sack. Fuck, yeah. I felt when that happened too.
Yeah. The other guy comes in and just straight out bumps him off. And then Bond ends up in the hospital.
The pacing in that movie is really out there, and I enjoyed that.
It's excellent. And then you get to the hospital there, and he's talking to Vespa, and you go, this is the end. And it completely caught me off guard that then after that section, when they go away to, I think it's Venice, where the final action scene is based. And then you've got another entire action scene, and she drowns in the elevator because she ripped him off because she had to pay off somebody. It's been a long time since I've watched it.
It's just such a shame that they couldn't keep that energy in the rest of their movies.
Energy and creativity through the rest of the Daniel Craig. And I know the Quantum of Solace, they hit the writer's strike period, so they had a lot of problems there. I understand that, but then they just continued on, and then they try and drop this fucking Blofeld thing where Blofeld's bloody Bond's brother and this and that, and it's like Inspector.
Yeah, who was played by the actor who plays
Christoph Waltz.
He's such a good fucking actor. He's
great, but he was never an actor. We didn't start as an actor. But yeah, like he comes in as Bond's brother that he grew up with. Like, how small is this fucking spy world? Like, come on, like you need to be more creative than that. It's just, and that's why Louisa's really keen on watching this No Time to Die, and I'm like, I do not give two fucks about this.
I've got zero interest. Interest.
I couldn't get further from caring about it. I do not.
Because it's another clone movie. It's just another clone movie with a logo stamped on the front.
Yeah. And then they really lost their way with they really grounded. I shouldn't say that because it's nowhere near grounded. They tried to bring Bond more grounded with out of the stupid Pierce Brosnan ones.
Yeah.
In Casino Royale.
Yeah.
And now they've got him doing burnouts in the Aston Martin with the fucking machine guns in the headlights, and it's just they fall into their own character. They keep falling into their own traps where they go, okay, we've got to up it for the next movie. We've got to up it for the... No, you don't. Keep it the same level of, I say this in quotation marks, realism.
Do you not feel that MCU has fallen into the same pit, though?
Oh, 100%.
They're a victim of their own success. So they were original and drew upon original IP that we hadn't seen before, created their own tropes, and now they're just falling into their own tropes that they invented themselves 10 years ago.
100%. And this was once again something I didn't want to cover.
Sorry.
But this was my problem with Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
100% my problem with Shang-Chi. That fight in the bus was really great all the way up until Razor Fist had a bloody hot blade come out of his forearm, where there is absolutely no way that man could have stored that blade in the stump that he had.
I'm glad I wasn't the only person who thought that.
Still be able to bend his goddamn elbow. Like, that wasn't happening. It wasn't a nano fucking bot blade. It was a full-on blade, and it was far too long to be stored in half of his forearm and still have full function of his arm.
Yeah.
Like, it just...
And look, last episode I said the same thing. I did not enjoy that movie. I thought it was... There were moments of okayness. The Falcor at the end was great, just because I miss the never-ending story. But that's about the highlight of the fucking movie.
I hated that as well.
But even calling it Falcor's kind of taking the piss. It's not Falcor anyway, is it? What's the name of the fucking the Chinese dragon at the end of Lord?
I tuned out at any dialogue that happened when they got to that place.
No, I mean in the never-ending story. The dragon, the dog.
Dragon. The dog dragon
it's
one.
It's not Falcor. That's the name of his horse when he was dying in the mud. The mire of sorrows. But then Tom really liked it for just being a traditional martial arts kung fu movie.
No, don't get me wrong. I love those aspects of it. I love the bus fight until Razor Fist came in, and then the bus ended up getting cut in half, and everybody lived.
Yeah.
I thought the martial arts, the nods to Bruce Lee, the nods to Jackie Chan, the nods to Hollywood action movies was all there, and then all of a sudden it turned into a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
And it lost its way there, and then when he gets to Macau and goes in, and like all the little fights are happening in the bits behind him.
Sorry. That was going to bug me. Yeah. I was thinking
all the fights are happening in the little cubes when Ronnie Chan's taking them through the fight arena. I like that Wong and the new Abomination were fighting each other. I loved Wong's little fucking portal and Abomination taking himself out.
Yeah.
Thought that was great. And that could have been enough Marvel.
Yeah.
That could have been enough Marvel in that movie. It was a...
And
yeah,
then
hey,
stick to the traditional martial arts film for the rest of the film.
There's
maybe a
magic, there's
twist.
fantasy,
Yeah.
there's everything happening here. Hey, his dad is over 1,000 years old with these magic rings. Yep, cool. But then the fight at the end, I know they had to up the stakes somehow, but the demon and the dragon looked cool, really looked cool, but it all to me felt so out of place for what could have been a fucking awesome martial arts movie.
Yeah. It could have just been a showdown between the two main characters at the end.
Yeah.
And fuck, you had two armies fighting each other who could have fucking turned into an arena around these two guys fighting it out for ultimate.
See,
it would have been closer to the original property that they were stealing from.
Yeah, I hated the two armies. I thought they're over the top
another
weaponry
MCU
and the generic black clad bad guys with the blue weapons and the colorfully clad good side people
with the dragon scale weapons that negate the evil weapons and vice versa.
Exactly, all that sort of stuff. The stupid, and she was funny. The best friend, she was funny. I'm not going to take it away from her.
In an annoying, tropey sidekick way.
Oh, definitely. But that, like, having her take that shot and take out the demon in the throat when she had Shang-Chi, when Shang-Chi was holding his sister, fucking hated it. Absolutely fucking hated it. That would have been the point if it hadn't have been 5 minutes from the end that I would have turned the fucking movie off. Like, because and
the irony
absolutely.
The irony is, Dan,
she needs to be the new fucking Hawkeye. Is she going to turn up in fucking Hawkeye and go, ha it took me 2 days to do this. You fucking take me under your wing and train me for a week. Imagine what I can do.
I've watched the first 2 episodes of Hawkeye, and I'd prefer to go back and watch the new Home Alone movie, and I will pull my fingernails out with pliers before I watch the new Home Alone movie. So
yeah,
that's kind of where I'm at. It was new 15 years ago. It was interesting. It was exciting. There have been some really good peaks. Civil War is great. Endgame was great and surprising that they went in the direction they went in, but I feel like they've fallen into their own traps along the way. And I actually think it's created the vacuum. Ironically, they were the new IP on the block 20 years ago, 15 years ago. It's got to be 20 years, surely.
2008 was Iron Man?
So it's only 10 to 15. So, but they were the new kid on the block with new IP. It was all original and interesting and fresh. And now they're the boring stuff. And it's just too much. Star Wars is threatening to go the same way. If they do much more than Book of Boba Fett, which I'm looking forward to, Mando Season 3, which I'm looking forward to, if Obi-Wan Kenobi doesn't really deliver something different in terms of an aspect on a story we know, then I reckon I'm going to be at fatigue level with the Star Wars universe as well.
My only thought on the difference between Star Wars and the MCU is, especially, I guess, within the TV series, they're not driving each series to be bigger and more over the top than the last.
In fact, they're small stories. And I think that's what
exactly
makes them...
They're small.
The Grogu whole plot line is small.
That's exactly it. It's Din with Grogu, and his quest is to take Grogu to find a Jedi or his people.
Yeah.
To save Grogu. Who knows? We could get out of hand now with Bo-Katan and reclaiming Mandalore, and
turn into
who knows where
a kind of a Clone Wars TV series spin-off.
Yeah, and I mean, Fett seems small and contained for the moment. It seems,
but they could easily blow that up into something big.
I think most of what we've seen is probably the first 1 or 2 episodes. I don't think we've seen beyond that in the trailers. It's all very confined to Tatooine. But if they keep it there, if they just keep it as a crime lord running a crime syndicate, do that. There's so many.
Do the Sopranos in Star Wars.
Fuck yeah!
Yeah. Right? There's a mind-blowingly different, but same series.
You've got okay. Let's run with that. You got Boba running Sopranos, Star Wars. You've got the Samurai. What's it called? Cub and Wolf and Cub. The Samurai story with Din and Grogu.
Mm-hmm.
You keep playing that through how it is.
And then you've got a traditional Western in Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Then you roll into Obi-Wan Kenobi.
It's got to be a Western.
Small contained Western. If you want to blow things out a little bit with Bo-Katan taking back Mandalore, blow it out a little bit with Bo-Katan. Like, throw your big action sequences
I
in
reckon
there
they're heading towards her getting her own series.
Oh, yeah, definitely. 100%.
Katie Sackhoff will be the next Tamira Morrison. I think Book of Boba Fett might run for 2 seasons more. Like, you'll get 2 seasons total. Mando will finish at the end of season 3, which they've already declared. And I reckon
I thought it was 4.
Maybe it was...
I think it's 4.
Okay.
Hmm.
There's not much there left to tell. And then you've either got a Grogu series or you've got a Katie Sackhoff series.
I think that Mandalorian will roll into Bo-Katan.
Yeah.
And then he will be an element within the Bo-Katan, whatever
I'm
they
okay
do
with
there
them doing that. I think
Mandalore.
that is different enough from the MCU, because going back to the original point, I think the Star Wars universe at the moment in those TV series are creating enough of a woven tapestry of characters that they can focus on one for a few seasons that and then interlace with the next character, the next major character who kind of comes from being a background character and becomes a major character, and then they go and tell a couple of stories about them. I think they're creating quite a good storytelling interface for the Star Wars universe. It's just a shame the movies are so fucking shit.
Well, the thing with exactly what you've just said there, and where the movies are, they have a baseline where they can't go past. Like, The Force Awakens is still 14 years in front of, is it 20 years past Return of the Jedi, or is it more than that?
I don't remember. I took no fucking notice, hey. That's how much
Return of the Jedi came out in 84. So, no, it's 40 years past. So, because Harrison Ford and that would have been there in their 70s. So, it's 40 years past Return of the Jedi. So, they've still got 30 years. They've still got 30, 35, 34 years, because the first series of Mando's 6 years after Return of the Jedi.
Yep.
So they've still got 34 years
of
thereabouts.
Canon to fill.
It's canon to fill, but you hit The Force Awakens, and it's basically still the same universe.
Yeah.
Like, some different powers have risen and fallen, but you don't have flying fucking dragons and demons coming out of, like, dragon scale walls. I mean, it's you have that point. You can't go past that point in something that's set 35 years beforehand, because
so
then
they almost have to tell
everything
small
else
stories.
Out. They have to, because they're in that space where they can't go outside of it.
They also can't move too quickly.
Well, that's exactly it. There's no you look at the Force Awakens, there is updated weapons and armor, but not enormously.
Yeah.
Like, the ships are updated, but not enormously. There's
you can see that there
were
an evolution of the ships we've already seen, rather than revolutionary
exactly
whole new craft. Yeah.
Where the fucking shit's going to hit the fan is how good this Acolyte series is. So if they do Darth Revan and Darth Bane back in the Old Republic, that's where shit's going to get wild.
Yeah, and they've got a lot of story, or a lot of runway to tell stories in that lead up kind of phase. Because they've never told that story. No,
well, only in the video games and books and comics and everything like that. all the other media.
They've never told that story on screen.
Yeah, I was being facetious. But then there's obviously the downcline of all that. It's not really technology, but that over the top Sith versus Jedi, and armies of Sith versus armies of Jedi, because the Sith bring in the rule of 2 with Darth Bane.
Yep.
So the Sith get pulled all the way back, and then the Jedi rule. Their rules change and evolve as well to what the Jedi religion we see in the prequels. And so once again, they've got something that they need to. They can have it up here, but then they had to tell the story to taper it all the way down So it rolls into the prequels. I guess they don't have to, but
they've got a lot of scope to tell that story. I'm a lot more excited about the Star Wars universe at the moment than I am the MCU. But I guess one of the points I was going to make leading into this part of the conversation that lasted 30 minutes, which is impressive, is this is why I'm enjoying how much book content they're currently turning into TV. Because book content has had to deal with these tropey issues for a long enough time that the good authors who stand themselves apart from the rest, the ones that make the Nebula Book Awards, the ones that make the highest copies sold, they've found the right way to break away from fantasy trope or science fiction storytelling trope to do something unique and different. That's what makes them popular. Turn that into a movie or a TV series, and the movie or the TV series automatically breaks away from the same tropes that we're already fatigued through Hollywood in.
Yeah, I from our point of view, I 110% agree with you, but that this goes back to our God Emperor of Dune conversation that the mass public will not accept a phallic-shaped, vagina-headed man with a head and upper torso and arms sticking out of the body of Jabba the Hutt.
I get it, but if the foundation of the Wheel of Time series starts with some 16-year-old boys, or boys and girls, and they can in the TV series easily move them to being 21. It's you can tweak the stories to modernize them. These books were written, between 30 and 60 years ago, depending on if you're talking about Dune or Wheel of Time. It's not that hard to modernize a good story. And ironically, it still says something about today's society as much as it did the society they were actually commenting on when they wrote it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's exactly what I was saying about Dune and how it's... And I don't know whether I said it on here. It was just in the chat.
No. You did say it on here. And I feel like Wheel of Time's the same. It's a commentary on... Well, it's not so much white privilege as much as male privilege and the gender gap. This is a society written... Like the whole world is written where the gender roles are almost reversed. And men are the ones who break the fucking world trying to take power. And women are the ones who naturally have it. That's just the order of things in their universe. I think it comments as much on modern society. The one thing I don't know, and I was going to say this earlier, I was thinking about it before the show, to how I would phrase it eloquently or sensitively, because there's no eloquence now. Now I'm half cut. I don't know how they would ever weave non-binary gender roles into that series, because it is such a binary society. All culture in that society is based around male versus female roles, and they're flipped on their head. It's not sexist. It's actually good that it challenges traditional gender roles, but I don't know how they would ever weave non-binary genders into it. And I feel like if they try, it might break something important in the story.
Yeah, well, I guess that time will tell with that one.
But definitely watch it. I mean, it's one of those shows. It's rare for me to stand up off my couch in a fourth episode going, fuck yeah. Like, just be excited enough about what's going on the screen in a fourth episode.
When you were talking about all that, I mean, it very much makes me think of the Witcher series as well. And the power balance there is a very odd one, because the power balance in that universe is the kings are the kings. The males are the ones that run the kingdoms across the northern lands and in Nilfgaard and everything like that. The Emperor of Nilfgaard. But the sorceresses are the ones that really call the shots. That every court has a sorceress, and every king refers to it. And the only
thing I don't like about that, and Wheel of Time is the same. There is a subtlety, there is a subtle negativity to women are really in control, but they're only in control through manipulation. And that is very much what Wheel of Time's like. Every king has an ASCD advisor and whilst they're the advisor to help the king, they're actually reporting back to the White Tower, who the Amarylline seat, the queen of the fucking magicians, if you like, is really controlling all politics in the fucking world through manipulation.
That's the same as the Witcher series. That
Very
the sorceresses all have the I can't remember.
I don't know it nearly as well as you do, and I'm too drunk to recall it, but I know what you're talking about. And in fact, it was covered in the TV series too.
Yeah, nowhere near as much as what the games and the books have covered it.
I'm going to have to cut out some of this delay.
Anyway, doesn't matter. But yeah, I mean, it's very much the same thing. But I mean, that goes back to the time when the books were written leaning on medieval society or medieval history and things like that. So
I was going to say, though, that it's interesting that you could write a book that was probably ahead of its time in 1990, and yet it's still relevant in 2021. It actually makes me a bit sad, because it shouldn't be relevant anymore.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be a social commentary. We should have kind of gotten past those issues.
Yep. Well, you shouldn't have written it in that time for something that was happening in the Dark Ages and hundreds of years before that was relevant then, that's now relevant now. Yeah, I mean,
there is one thing. There is one.
I'm getting political here, Pete.
Yeah, no. There is one thing that you don't discover until like book 6 or 7. Like you're halfway through this massive cycle of books in Wheel of Time. Maybe this will take us away. I don't know. There's this big moment where you just go, "Holy fuck!" Like it's just mind breaking that you've been reading this series set in this universe. It's a fantasy universe, and there's a reveal in the book that I must have read 3 or 4 times over in a sitting, and it's just every time I read it, I'm just like, I did not see that coming. Like it is foundational. Like it changed the whole outlook on the whole series. And yet, because TV is a visual medium, and maybe people will miss it if they've never read the books and they haven't read all of the books, but there's a moment in the very first episode, within the first 5 minutes, because it's visual, that reveal is given away.
Oh, wow, okay.
Hopefully, people who haven't read the books don't get it. Hopefully, it's just one of those things that just sits in the background and no one even notices.
Yeah.
But I found that really disappointing, but I got that they could not escape it.
Yeah.
Because it is a visual medium.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Very interesting. Yep. Okay. We're going to call it there?
I think we will, because I'm just going to end up taking over the whole fucking episode with Wheel of Time.
Oh, that's all right. No,
massive fanboy. All right. Well, thank you very much for watching.
Yeah. Cool.
Thanks, on our meal for 2.
Yeah.
Episode 69. I'm usually the immature one, Dan, and I wasn't even going to I didn't even count the episodes. It was fucking Tom. Blame Tom. Thanks for watching, guys.
Yeah.
Bye.